Hello, everyone, and welcome to Community Central for July 1st, 2021. This morning or afternoon or evening or whatever portion of the clock this is in your time zone, we are going to be talking about the Continuous Delivery Foundation, a foundation which has gotten a lot less publicity than some others, but has a lot of valuable projects that it stewards. Before we get started with that, though, some housekeeping notes. So this is Community Central. You can find links and our future programs on communitycentral.tv URL. After this session is finished, we will post a recording on the Red Hat Community YouTube channel and link it from communitycentral.tv. And that will go up probably later this afternoon. This is a Blue Jeans primetime broadcast, so as an audience member, you will not be able to speak out loud. However, you are welcome to use two tools. We have a chat tool where you are welcome to talk to each other and possibly the presenters if they get involved in the chat. But if you want to ask questions to the presenters, and we really encourage you to ask questions to the presenters because that's what this session is for, please use the Q&A tool, which should be in a panel probably on the right side of your screen. And please look at the questions that other people have asked and upvote them if the same question that you were going to ask. We are going to have a short set of introductions and an explanation of what the CD Foundation is, and then we are going to question and answer. So start preparing those questions. And with that, we are going to get started with introductions. So Andrea, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Andrea Frittoli. I work as a developer advocate for IBM, and I'm a newly elected member of the CD Foundation TOC, starting today, actually. And as well, I'm a maintainer of the Tekton project. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm a maintainer of the Tekton project, which is hosted by the CDF. And there I also serve as a member of the governing board. And I'm a co-chair of the events special interest group, also hosted by the CDF.
Cool. And Jason?
Hi, I'm Jason. I have contributed to many CDF projects, mainly Tekton, some contributions to Shipwright, which we'll talk about a little bit later. I am also Red Hat's representative on the CDF governing board, and along with Andrea, started today on the TOC, the CDF Technical Oversight Committee. Yeah, that's me.
Okay, Vincent?
Yeah, Vincent Demeester, working at Red Hat. I am one of the lead the CDF project of Tekton with Andrea, Jason, Christy, and others. And I am working on OpenShift pipeline. So I think that's me.
And Adam?
Hi, I'm Adam Kaplan. I'm a software engineer at Red Hat. I am one of the maintainers of Project Shipwright, which we have submitted to CDF as an incubating project. I also lead a team at Red Hat that integrates Jenkins, which is probably one of the founding CDF projects, in with OpenShift, and we've also done things to integrate Jenkins with Tekton. So.
Awesome. Okay. Well, so thank you. And Jason, I believe that you had an general explanation of the CD Foundation.
Yeah. I didn't prepare any slides, but I can at least go through and talk about what the CD Foundation is. So when asked to talk about this, I immediately went to the CD Foundation website, cd.foundation, and they very clearly say what the CD Foundation is. CD Foundation is an open source community improving the world's ability to deliver software with security and speed, is the official tagline, mission statement. What that means in practicality is that it's a group of people interested in and experienced with continuous delivery. evangelizing continuous delivery, evangelizing the benefits of it, how to do it, what it is, sometimes arguing about what it isn't and what it is, but mainly we think that continuous delivery as a concept is useful and productive and something that people should do and would benefit from doing. I think a lot of people don't know how prevalent or how unprevalent CD is in modern software engineering. There are a lot of legacy code bases and legacy projects, and legacy is not intended to be any sort of insult. Legacy software is usually the most profitable software. So a lot of instead of legacy, I'm going to use the word profitable. A lot of profitable software is not continuously delivered. It's not flashy or fun, but it pays the bills, and we need those too. So a lot of what the CD Foundation does is talk with vendors and service providers about what continuous delivery is, and talk with end users and prospective end users, and collect their requirements, collect their use cases, collect their experiences, and sort of act as a conduit between projects trying to deliver continuous delivery tools and services and projects and end users who would use those things. And it turns out that's a very complicated but also very useful and productive area of work. The CDF is sort of the little brother or little sibling of the CNCF under the Linux Foundation. The CNCF is the Cloud Native Computing Foundation and is the home to Kubernetes and dozens, maybe even hundreds of other projects. The CDF is smaller. There are 6 open source projects, 6 currently open source projects in the CDF, but they're very focused and very, very tightly focused on continuous delivery. Unlike the CNCF, the CDF is not. So the Cloud Native Computing Foundation is very focused on cloud native technologies like Kubernetes, like open observability, things like that, gRPC, Helm, etcd, hundreds of others, like I said. CDF is more focused on what you do with that technology to provide continuous delivery for your software. So CDF projects and users might not be cloud native, whatever that means. We can spend a lot of time arguing about what cloud native means and what continuous delivery means, but the CDF is instead focused on whatever your software is, however you are delivering, whatever it is you are building, and however it runs, you should understand the benefits of continuous delivery, understand how to use these projects to do that, whether that means Tekton or Jenkins or Jenkins X or Shipwright or Telius or any of the other projects. Some of the specific things that the CDF does, aside from just evangelize, like here is continuous delivery and why you should use it, is sort of collecting and collating and refining best practices. There's a special interest group, a SIG for best practices, that is really collecting war stories, collecting like we tried this and it worked, or we tried this and it didn't work. Collecting those and broadcasting those and saying like, hey, we tried, progressive rollouts like this and it worked, but it didn't work the way we wanted, or we tried canary deployments with rollbacks or whatever and it worked or didn't. It's not like there's one size fits all. It's not like there's one way to deploy software. There are a million ways to deploy software because there are a million different types of software and a million different teams and projects and organizations. So, but SIG best practices is sort of trying to collect and distill the this is in general.
Do you want to re-say that last sentence? You froze for a bit.
The SIG best practices is trying to collect and collate and distill experience from as broad a group as possible to give ideas about the best way we think, often best practices are also definitely do not do this. So that's SIG best practices. There's also a SIG for interoperability between the many projects. I think a lot of times people approach the question of, should I use Jenkins or Tekton, or should I use one or the other, and which one is better, right? There isn't really a better. It's kind of whatever's best for you, whatever works best for whatever you are doing. I know that there are hundreds, thousands of teams and projects completely productive and useful and humming along with Jenkins or humming along with Tekton or doing whatever. So SIG interoperability is sort of trying to make it so that you don't have to choose one. You can interoperate between these things. And use Jenkins when it's appropriate, use Tekton when it's appropriate, use any of these other things when they're appropriate. And SIG events is another one. I'm going to let Andrea talk a bit more about SIG events, which is a SIG for sort of standardizing and defining event types for continuous delivery. I'll let Andrea take it over from here.
Right, thanks, Jason. Yeah, the mission of the SIG event starts in interoperability, indeed, and it was a work stream there as part of the interoperability SIG. But we wanted to give it a bit more attention and relevance and made it a SIG on their own. And the mission we have is to basically create a common dictionary, if you will, for this project to communicate with each other and do so via events. So we've seen a lot of use cases, and also we are looking for war stories from users that are using events in their CI/CD setup. And often this kind of setup, they have one system that generates certain events and another system that receives those events, and they need to be connected together to create the overall workflow. And so what we're trying to do is create a common terminology and a common protocol so that this platform can talk together with each other without the need of creating all this point-to-point integration. So without having to integrate Jenkins with Tekton and Tekton with Spinnaker and Spinnaker with Jenkins back. So that's the mission of the SIG events.
Are you using the Cloud Events pseudo standard from the Cloud Events project?
Yeah, that's what we, the protocol that we start with. So kind of the underneath layer. And so what we're trying to do is define our own schema and vocabulary on top of Cloud Events. And yeah, we didn't want to reinvent the wheel and create a brand new protocol. Cloud Events is kind of established now, and it also can run on top of multiple bindings. So you can run it on top of HTTP or other protocols, so that kind of already served that purpose, and it was really a good fit for us.
Yeah, so SIG events is sort of standardizing the definition of what it means, providing a standard definition for a Git push or a release event, or a certain number of events that tend to happen around CD tools and projects, so that, correct me if I'm wrong, so that Jenkins can emit a thing that Tekton picks up and does something, and then Tekton pushes a thing and emits an event that Spinnaker can pick up and take, right? That's sort of a useful abstraction to have for interoperability between these things, so that you don't have to build, like Andrea said, each combination of each tool within the ecosystem has to have its own bespoke custom interaction. You can just say, I emit an event and it goes out into the ether, something else picks it up and does a thing and maybe emits another event or a bunch of events. I think that's a really interesting area for interoperability, not just within CDF projects, but among everything, right? You can have Slack bots that do things, or tweet when a release happens or something like that, right?
Yeah, indeed. So we have a few different buckets, like you mentioned. So we can have events for a change, or you can have an events with the builds. We have other abstraction like testing or continuous deployment related events, and we kind of trying to make an extensible framework so that we can have more categories in the future. And the reason why we also made this its own SIG is because we have other kind of use cases beyond the interoperability between projects, so like point-to-point, which is if you imagine you're building your CD workflow and using a number of different tools, and they all emit events. And if these events are consistent, then you can imagine, towards South having a common system that records all these events and allows you to monitor, visualize your workflow, and measure what's going on in your workflow independent of the system that is running the different parts of it. So this is kind of the second main area that we are looking at.
Yeah, and those things like collecting logs of events, collecting and visualizing these events and these interactions is also, a best practice, right? You don't just want to throw Git source in at one end and see a deployment happen on the other end. You want to know what's happening along that pipeline. You want to know what's happening, especially if that pipeline is not one thing. It's like ping-ponging between 5 things, right? You want to be able to visualize all of that, and that's something that the CDF as an umbrella for all of these projects helps bring them together and sort of give them a forum to all talk together about how to standardize this event definition, right? Like if one project on its own decided to create these event definitions, it might be successful. It's not impossible that it would be successful, but it's going to be more productive if it's done in collaboration with teams that are, also emitting these types of events or also consuming these types of events and also building dashboards and event streams and things like that. So I think that's like a unique special power that CDF gives these projects is sort of to give them a forum to talk to each other and to talk to end users that would use these things and say like, Jenkins folks, what do you want to emit? And users, what do you want to see? So yeah, being an umbrella for these projects is part of the funnel, right? Like to give end users a forum to be able to talk to these projects and for these projects to talk to these end users is sort of another sort of benefit of the CDF. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we have a great question from Bill. That just came in that I think ties directly into this, which is his team at Red Hat has an open source tool that is a workflow tool on top of Jenkins, and they'd like to explore getting it into the CDF. So his question is, what do they do? And you guys would know that, given that we're currently going through it with Shipwright. And then I'm going to actually tack on to that. In addition to the interactivity and that sort of thing, are there also sort of material benefits? Project being in the CDF.
So like you said, we've recently gone through this process. We are hopefully near the end of this process for Shipwright. It was very easy. It was one of those things. I don't know if I'm the only one, but it seemed like it would be hard, so I put it off for a little bit, and then I just did it in 10 minutes. The process is basically I'll add a link in the chat, but basically there's a questionnaire of maybe 15, maybe 20 questions of what is the project's name? What contributors from which companies are contributing to it? Very, very easy questions, not anything difficult. And the sort of hardest question is do you have a governance model? And you don't have to have one, but eventually I think sort of having good governance is important anyway, and CDF will help you with that as well. but yeah, the process is very easy. You fill out this questionnaire, you propose it as a project to the technical oversight committee. They will. We presented Shipwright at a TOC meeting. It was just sort of going through the questionnaire and answering any questions that people had. But it was very easy. It was very painless. I don't know, Adam, did you find it to be? How did you find it to be?
I found it pretty painless as well. I'd say that the process, we're only maybe the second or third project that is going through this cycle, with Ortelius and Screwdriver being the other two that have gone through the proposal process. But yep, just generally they want to know who you are, who's contributing to it, how you are governing and organizing yourselves, and just they want to see what your ideas and aspirations are going forward, so that when you bring it to them, if you want to build a community, that that you sort of demonstrate that you want to do that in earnest.
Yeah, and the in Shipwright's case, Shipwright has been a project that folks from Red Hat and folks from IBM have been contributing so far. Basically, if you donate it to this foundation, and now the foundation owns it, and anyone from any company, doesn't even have to be at a company, can contribute to it. Sort of knowing that you're not just giving only one company the benefit of it. I think that's a benefit of foundation ownership in general, and certainly continuous delivery foundation ownership in particular. The other question was sort of what are the material benefits of doing that? The CDF,
in addition, right? Because we talked about the benefits of being part of the interoperability forum and the benefits of having that end user channel and that sort of thing, which are substantial, right? But also, effectively, you're giving this foundation whatever your IP is, and so alienating a certain amount of control, you're having to follow a certain set of rules. So are you getting other things?
Yeah. In addition to the sort of vague immaterial benefits of forums and user interaction, there's a sort of marketing benefit. CDF will help you with promoting and marketing and advertising your project and services built on that project. They will. There's CDCon just happened. Is that last week?
Yeah, that was last week.
Man, time flies. CDCon is CDF's convention. It was virtual this year, but it was a fantastic place to just talk about projects in particular and in general, continuous delivery, best practices, worst practices, experiences, things like that. It was a good marketing vehicle for these projects. If you want more people to know about your project, if you want more people to contribute to your project, these are great benefits that the CDF provides. Also, as far as literal material benefits, they will make at store.cd.foundation, they have socks with logos, they have stickers, they have shirts and hoodies and plushies. I have a Tekton plushie around here somewhere.
I got my little one back there. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah. So if the Ploygos team has a logo that you would like turned into a plushie, the CD Foundation can help you with that. That is probably oh no, the cat's going for it. Oh no. Very cat attracting plushies is the main material benefit. But yeah, I think there are mainly aside from just the forums and being able to talk to other teams about CD best practices and development best practices in general, getting the word out about your project, getting a stage, literally a stage to talk about your project to people is a useful benefit. I don't know. Does anybody else have an answer to that? Are there any other sort of material benefits you've seen or anticipate so far?
I just want to jump in. There's, I'm sure some folks might be asking, like, what is CDF versus CNCF? Are they kind of silos? And I think the answer to that is kind of no. I don't know if folks saw. I think it might have been just announced today. CDF and CNCF are doing a joint summit as like day zero for KubeCon LA, where it's on a secure software building. I forgot the exact title of that summit, but focus on supply chain security, which has been a big and growing topic in both of our communities, especially the events of what's happened in 2020.
Yeah. I'm also going to get it wrong. I thought I had it, but then I think I don't know if it's right. Secure supply chain. Secure. Okay.
I think that's it.
We'll have to find an acronym for it, but that's a good sort of collaboration between CDF and CNCF to, right? They identified a thing that both communities care about, and I mean the not only the projects in the communities overlap and the work overlaps, but in a lot of cases the personnel overlap. The people working, contributing to these projects obviously overlap in a lot of cases. So,
and the SIG as well are very open to collaboration. Like in the SIG events, we work, and we are building a POC for events, and we are sending these events from Tekton and receiving them and sending them back from Kaplan, which is a CNCF project. And we have also a presentation from Argo events that is also hosted by the CNCF. So we are definitely looking for interoperability, across the CD space and the ecosystem, and not only that part that is hosted by the CDF, but in general, all projects that are interested in working together.
Yeah, it's definitely not separate silos. The goal is not to build a larger silo. The goal is to knock down walls between things. I thought of another couple material benefits to CDF membership. I don't know if Tekton has started the process yet, but CDF at least offered to fund a security review, a security audit of Tekton. I think that is a great thing that we should take advantage of. It seems scary, but also very important as you're trying to secure the product. And I know that again, Tekton, which is the project I'm most familiar with, hasn't had a problem with it, but I know that there's also CDF provides legal help with trademarks, with if you are interested in getting the trademark or interested in sort of legal help. That is something that is absolutely outside of my depth, outside of my knowledge. If you asked me to look at a law thing, I would probably melt, but CDF will help you navigate that and has people experienced with that. So those are massive benefits to me personally, because I don't know anything about that. So I just want someone else to tell me what to do, and CDF will help you with that. Does anyone else, any other material benefits? Vincent, Andrea, anything else you've benefited from? I
don't know if you talked about the infra part. CDF also gives us funding for our infra, so all our CI CD that we would use for Tekton is funded by the foundation, where it was by Google before we joined, before CDF was created. And this is also similar to, for example, all the working group we do in video chats. CDF is helping us hosting this, because choosing the platform we would use, etc. We are trying to use Zoom, for example, from them. Yeah, I think that's also one benefit, is that if you need infra for your CI, CD, etc. for your project, you could just ask them for it.
Yeah, I think that ties into community ownership, community, collaborative ownership. Is if it was a Supercorp owned product, their CI should be paid by Supercorp. But if it's owned by a central, foundation where multiple companies can contribute, who should foot the bill for the CI? Well, CDF should.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and that's also important when people from multiple companies are trying to participate in it, right? Because
Yeah.
if, say, Red Hat is running the test infra, it's very hard for us to give direct access to somebody who doesn't work for Red Hat.
Right, exactly.
And then that person can't contribute to testing, right? So,
right, or they need, or like, anyone can contribute, but some person from Red Hat has to sign off on it before it can, that's just another hurdle for non-Red Hat people to contribute. And again, fewer hurdles, fewer silos, fewer walls between things.
So I have a very sort of incidental question, but it's actually kind of wondering about it, which is the normal sort of industry phrase is CI/CD. So is there a significance in it being the CD Foundation and not the CI/CD Foundation? Or is it just somebody decided the CD Foundation was too long?
I don't know, but I am getting the distinct sense that we are very close to a definition argument. Or I mean, like people anytime someone talks about what CD is, on a long enough timeline, you will argue about not argue, but disagree or get into the weeds about what CD is and when it's CI and when it's CD and when, whatever. I don't personally care. Like if they called it the CI/CD Foundation, that'd be fine. I'd have to update my LinkedIn or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think, I think the benefit of focusing on one versus the other is focus, right? Is you get to focus on a specific problem. If over time the projects that, I mean, like for instance, Tekton and Jenkins are both very often used in CI, because it's a blurry line, because there is no difference between them at some point. And certainly things like Spinnaker tend to be more CD focused and less CI focused. But there's nothing that stops you from doing it if you want to. If we can't stop you. So yeah, mostly I think it's about sort of focusing on the second half of that life cycle. I don't really care if it's called the CD Foundation or CI/CD Foundation or CI Foundation. If some CI Foundation suddenly came up, I think we'd have a Jets and Sharks type of situation. We'd have to take it outside and see who wins. But I don't know. Does anybody want to engage me in a definitional argument about CI versus CD? That sounds fun, right?
I think we can skip that one.
All right, good.
Yeah,
good.
no, I was wondering if it had significance, like, for example, like where I could see it actually falling down an example is, imagine if I came to the CD. Imagine that if I had a tool that was really 100% about automating pre-submit tests.
Right.
Right? Would that be appropriate to the CD Foundation, or would it not be because that's really a pure CI tool?
I think I disagree with your premise, because anything that can do CI can do CD. You might, as the creator of it, have intended it. Your intention, your focus, your expectation is CI. But if you give me the ability to run a command, I can deploy software with that command. And so, there really, that's what I mean by, like, there really is no difference between the two. It's kind of just workflow running.
I almost see it as, it's about delivery, getting software to users reliably and quickly. Like that's kind of like ultimately what we're trying to do here. And so like things that most people I see as like CI things, that's like that reliability piece. Like how do you test your software, make sure that it's working, make sure that it's doing the things that you want it to do, either before you get it in front of users, or maybe you're using things like Spinnaker to get it in front of a subset of users, because that your test can only do so much. The real world is going to give you the best signal as to whether or not your software is working correctly or not. And so that's why it's like, to me, that sort of hypothetical, to me, it's almost like yes, because it's getting to that reliability part offhand.
Yeah. The distinction is not only blurry, but unimportant, right? The goal, what we're really talking about is reliably, securely, quickly delivering stuff to users. The point we're doing this is so that users can get our stuff, right? Whether that is benefited by quote unquote CI or quote unquote CD, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
So I want to move a little bit more into, sort of what's going on, because, like, I'll tell you, I was a software consultant many years before coming to Red Hat. And I have to say, during that time, my experience of CI and CD was that everybody talked about it, but nobody did it. So I stopped being a software consultant about 5 years ago. Have things gotten better in that respect, right? Where are companies and nonprofits and governments and stuff on their sort of adoption of continuous delivery?
That's a good question. I think there's also there's also a question of, like, what is it to do it? Like, a lot of people say you said people say they're doing it, but they're not doing it. Like, yeah. By whose definition, right? If they are benefiting from automation in their processes, they are doing it right. By my definition, right? The CD Foundation, as far as your question of, like, how is adoption going? Is it getting better? Is this working? The CD Foundation released a really great report. I should again put the link in the thing. The State of CD report, which is a great set of slides that sort of they ran a survey among a lot of industries, a lot of companies, and said, like, what are your processes, and how's it working in terms of, like, how quickly can a change, if I commit a change today, how long will it take before that's out? Or if that goes out and causes a breakage, how quickly can you detect and roll that back? Which is, an often overlooked part of rolling things out is, now we have to roll it back. And so the reports are really great, like, sort of broad industry look at, like, how quickly is stuff getting out? How quickly is stuff rolling back? How quickly, how agile, not in the agile, capital A agile, but, like, how nimble are you in your processes? I don't think that the answer is it's perfect. Everyone's great. Software has solved everyone. Go back to the beach. But, like, I think there is data that indicates that it is getting better, that these things are sort of, landing with end users and developers that are, responsible for rolling this out. And we have data that says that it is getting more productive. Users or developers are getting more productive in releasing their software. That report is really good and really thorough and full of a lot of pretty graphs, and I highly recommend it. I will put a link in the. Andrea beat me to it.
Yep,
he's too fast.
Awesome. Yeah,
I have the link in my sleeves.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. So then, sort of, what's the future? Not just in terms of people adopting CI/CD practices and tools, but what's the future in terms of, say, those tools getting better or doing new things? What do you see?
I don't know. Does anyone want to go first? Predict the future. Vincent, predict the future.
I don't know how to predict the future. I know I would like to see some standardizing things in this world, a bit like what the Docker image formats did 2 years back on containers. So yeah, I would like for it to be based on Tekton everything, but I'm probably a little bit biased there. But yeah, I don't know what the future is made of, because each and every day we do change our future. I don't know. It's gonna end up a philosophical discussion, I think.
Yeah, I think as far as predictions / hopes, I won't predict, but I can at least hope. Definitely interoperability between these tools, so that people pick the thing that works best for them. They don't pick the thing that they have to because it's the only one that does this. They should all do it. They should all do, roughly everything a user needs, and so they should pick up the tool that is most, that fits best in their hand, particularly. Interoperability, I think, is a definite next frontier as far as all of these tools and related tools and downstream things working well together.
And
Andrea,
I think if you
go ahead.
oh, sorry.
I was just calling your name.
If I look at CDCon 2020 and then 2021, I see that the questions are shifting. In the beginning, it was much more like, oh, why should we do CD? And then it's becoming more like, how are we doing CD, or how well? And I think in the future will, become more and more established, and we'll look more into things like security, supply chain that we mentioned earlier. And so really making sure that not only everyone is able to deliver good quality artifacts, but is doing that securely, and that, with the software artifacts are coming from, and you can rely on them. And because this is becoming more an intrinsic part of the software delivery, of the software supply chain that everyone is using. So it will become also more a larger surface for attacks. So I think security in that space is going to be a big part of the future.
Yeah, I was going to almost mention the same thing, Andrea, where I see one of the themes that I see in the future is the idea of shifting things left. If you imagine your sort of delivery workflow and like where security happens, the notion that you're not doing security at the end either before you deploy or even after you deploy your application, but that you're incorporating security checking and security auditing at the very beginning, whether it's recording the actual SHAs of the Git source code that you clone down, the checksums for all the dependencies that get pulled in, the digest of if you're building a container image, the digest of that container image, so you can kind of audit that and watch that get flowed through the deployment pipeline, so that that what you built is actually what gets deployed and gets delivered. Things like image scanning, vulnerability scanning, putting that earlier in the pipeline so that even after you've run, say, your functionality tests, you can simultaneously have that scan that says, okay, we don't think there are any vulnerabilities. Let's get that in. Back to with the events things, this is something that I've seen even within Red Hat and other groups do, is that if there is a new vulnerability, say, if you're building everything off of UBI8 and there's a vulnerability there, there's a new version of that container image, having an event get fired off from Red Hat's container registry, which then you ingest, and then that triggers your builds, redeploys your application, so then that vulnerability is not out in your production environment, and that the threat is minimized. That's sort of the thing that I see moving forward in the future.
And that kind of that kind of automation is what continuous delivery is for, right? Like if you automate absolutely everything you can automate, then you can hook it up to events. You can hook it up to automatic processes to kick off these things. You might be skeptical of automatically building and rolling out that software, right? That's entirely reasonable for your use cases, but to make as much of it automatable as possible, and remove as much human work and toil and bureaucracy from the process is absolutely the mission, right? That's what we're all here for. Automate everything, spend human brain cycles on human brain cycle things, and clicking buttons on computer cycle things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, the more, oh, sorry, Josh.
No, go ahead.
I mean, the more often you do this kind of, you do your delivery or your deployment of software, the smaller the risk, right? So you may be skeptical, say, I don't want to do this automatically, but if you do it every day or every hour, the risk that you're taking every time is smaller. So can take away the, human part of validating that with more tranquility.
Yeah, and not only that, the reason I personally like very frequent deployments or very frequent releases is if I release every 6 months, there is a bug in that code that is 5.5 months old, and I have forgotten all of the context of why I wrote that bug. I probably wrote that bug. If a release happens every hour or every change, then that bug that I introduced is at most, 59 minutes old, and hopefully I can remember what I was doing an hour ago to remember, why I put that bug in there. So I think like very, very, very frequent releases, whether or not it actually deploys and goes to users is up to you, but at least like running tests frequently, running it, things like that is absolutely like very, very productivity multiplying. Yeah.
Okay, well, on that, I think we're at the end of our time. I think it's a good thought to leave with here. So thank you all for coming and explaining this to the audience. As I said at the beginning, this video has been recorded and will go up and will be linked from communitycentral.tv probably later today, if not later today, then tomorrow. So if you missed any part of it, you can go back and watch it. You can share it with the people who couldn't attend. And for that matter, our presenters here are involved in lots of open source projects. And so if you have further questions, you can probably find them there. Particularly questions about Shipwright or Tekton or Jenkins. And thank you.
Thanks for having us, Josh. This has been really fun.
Josh.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.